Welcome all to Minnesota. Glad to see so many friends. So good evening. Like she said, I'm Mary Turner, president of the mighty Minnesota Nurses Association. And of course, I'm a practicing registered nurse, an ICU nurse. It's my great honor to introduce you Congressman Keith Ellison from right here in the 5th District of Minnesota. Yep. Where'd he go? There you are. All right. So, all right, now listen, I want to brag about him a little bit more, okay? So, since his days in the state legislature throughout his 12-year career in Congress, Congressman Ellison has championed policies focused on economic justice, environmental sustainability, human rights, and peace. Congressman Ellison has fought for health care for all, regardless of income, race, gender, employment status, or health. My God, you sound like a nurse. Okay, all right.
I only wish.
Yeah, he understands that the current system is broken. It is centered around private insurance companies and reap profit off of sickness, and we can't fix it until we can take the profit motive out.
That's right.
Most recently, he became the chief author of H.R. 676, the expanded and improved Medicare for all. Not only does Congressman Ellison work for good policy, he organizes to make them happen. Since his first election in 2006, throughout intense grassroots organizing, Congressman Ellison has turned the 5th District, once the lowest turnout district in Minnesota, into the highest turnout district in the state. Guided by the philosophy that everybody counts and everybody matters. Congressman Ellison and his team have made voter turnout a 365-day-a-year program. Voters in the 5th District know that Congressman Ellison doesn't just care about them for a day in November. He has created an ongoing and interactive relationship with them. The deep organizing in the 5th has resulted in grassroots successes locally, statewide, and nationally, and has launched countless new leaders into the progressive movement. It is his current role as the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and of the deputy chair of the DNC. He has brought this philosophy to Democrats nationwide. Thank you, sir. Congressman Keith Ellison has consistently been one of the best friends the nurses have, and I couldn't be prouder to introduce him to you tonight. Please welcome Congressman Keith Ellison.
How's everybody? Woo! Woo! Welcome to Minnesota. It's good to have y'all here. Welcome to the moment. Welcome to the hour. Welcome to the time of your life, because you happen to be right there as America steps into universal single-payer health care, Medicare for all. You were there at the propitious moment, at the time when it really could happen, not in somebody else's lifetime, but in the near future. It's very close. I assure you, it's so close. We have over 122 people in the House of Representatives on H.R. 676. We have 17 senators, but more important than that, a numerical majority of Americans believe in it. More important than that, we got the nurses on our side. We got folks running for governor in Maryland, California, and yes, Minnesota. who are running on a Medicare for All platform. We are ready to win. And we just got a little bit more work to do. And it's going to take all of us and more. But don't you doubt it. It is within our grasp. It is right there. Now, I just want to tell you, we've tried a lot of other stuff now. You know, we came to the conclusion, some of us, we were like, well, you know, we want health care, but we know those guys are never going to give it to us. So, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to the Heritage Foundation plan. We're going to go to the Mitt Romney plan. And look, I voted for it, y'all. I'm sorry. I voted for the Affordable Care Act and was proud to do so because it was better than what we had before. But can we dream a little bit? Can we look further? I mean, we gave them what they wanted, and they're trying to tear that apart. They're trying to rip the Affordable Care Act apart, even though it was a Romney plan. Proving that no concession you give to these people will be good enough. So why? What if we just got out there and fought for what we really needed and would solve the problem? What if we just went for it? People, if you're going to have to fight your ass off for a minimalist plan that doesn't really do it, why not just go do it? They've proven this to us. Let me tell you, we believe that the American people are ready. But let me tell you, we've got to do a few things. I just want to lay out a few things to you that I think we need to do. One is every single congressional district in the United States has to have regular community meetings on Medicare for All. This is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. We've got to do it in every single congressional district. Certainly, we've got to do it in every Democratic congressional district. But why stop there? We have got to, yes, do door knock canvassing in all of these districts. Door knocks. And every day, we've got to get somebody who can issue a report on how many calls and how many knocks were done that day. How much information was delivered to the doorstep that day. Because we will win universal single payer Medicare for all, one person at a time. That is how we're going to do it. We have got to knock every door. We've got to call all over. We've got to have regular community meetings. We've got to get our artists to write songs, make poems, do movies, paint pictures, put some murals up there. We need some plays on single payer. We've got to engage the artistic community because, you know what? Us folks who talking stats and all that stuff, that's fine. But what moves you more than a song? We've got to employ the artistic community in our fight so that we can move the heart. It's so critically important. Just like our speakers today were so moving, we've got to employ that level of emotionality to this, because at the end of the day, we're not going to make a logical argument, although what we're saying is logical. We have got to move people in the heart, and that's where it counts. When the young lady from West Virginia, and actually each and all of them gave their presentations, didn't you feel it? Yes. I felt it right in here, and that is what we've got to do. Also, we've got to remember that we don't need to debate the finer points of healthcare policy now. We've got to convince people in concept that they have a right to health care. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and me along with Bernie Sanders have introduced the bill for $15 minimum wage. And this friend of mine was said, you know, Keith, I've looked at the econometrics, and $13.94 would be exactly what? I'm like, brother. The federal minimum wage is $7.25, and the tipped wage is $2.13. That ain't right. Let's not argue about the fine points. Let's get people to get the main idea, which is they have a right to get health care. They have a right to be covered. They should not go bankrupt because they got sick. That is what we have got to convince people, because this system convinces people that they don't deserve health care. Well, what's going to happen to the business people if we have... I'm like, the business people are going to be a whole lot better off. My man Frank is out there. He runs a print shop. Stand up, Frank. Frank runs a print shop. He's a printer, and he makes his living. When people come to him, he prints up invitations, all kinds of stuff. He does a good job. Go there. Go to Frank if you need some printing. He's union. But what if Frank just could take his universal single payer Medicare for all card to deal with the flu he might catch? What if he just, if he's out there trying to play ball, Frank's a little older than he used to be. He might be out there in the basketball court trying to play with them 20-year-old guys. Frank get a little strain in his ankle. He could just go down and say, hey, doc, I need a little splint on my ankle. I need a little treatment. I need a little care. He doesn't have to say, well, I hope it gets better, when he might actually have a fracture. We can dream of a world in which the small business person doesn't have to carry the big hump of a healthcare premium in one of these outrageous policies that is designed to do nothing but enrich the company and impoverish him. And it's not just the small business people who would benefit. How many times have you heard that the major auto manufacturers off of a car is like $2,100 per car is healthcare costs? Don't let anybody tell you. Now, I love all of y'all in here, but don't let anybody tell you that it's just for the people who believe in the social responsibility of a fair, inclusive economy like I do and like many of you do. It's not just us who would benefit from this. We would all benefit from this. We don't have to fall out over who's of this and who's of that. This system benefits nobody but a very tiny number of people. There used to be a guy in town who was head of United Health Group, and his name was Bill McGuire, and if he made $100 million a year, he'd have a bad year, because usually he made $110 million a year. I'm telling you that this is within our power to do. You know it, I know it, but don't just talk to each other. We've got to break out beyond our comfort zones and talk to people who we don't know. That is what we've got to do. We've got to have community meetings where people don't know anything about Medicare for all. We've got to have phone banks where people don't know anything about it. We've got to knock doors in neighborhoods where people may never have heard of it. This is the kind of commitment that's going to bring us to success. And I'm telling you, as a matter of fact, you might just find that some of the best movement activists that you will ever meet don't know anything about HR 676 right now. But once you tell them, you mean we could get health care for everybody just like going to a public school or police or fire services? Yeah, you can. Well, where do I sign up? Think about the racial health care disparities in our country. What if everybody could go to the doctor? It would close these historic gaps and begin to give people real opportunity that they never really ever had before. What if we did these things? We've got to go, we've got to take the message beyond the folks who already know about it. It's so critical. And I'm going to tell you, we need to run ads pointing out to constituents people who are not on the bill. I'm not saying lying. I'm just saying they're not on the bill. You know the bill that's going to help you a lot? Your congressman's not on it. Just so you know. Now, some of y'all be thinking, oh, Keith, how could you do that? This is wrong. This is not right. You're putting too much pressure on them. Well, let me just tell you this. If you're not ready to take the heat, you shouldn't be in the kitchen. But But look at it this way. You're actually doing some of these hand-wringing Dems a favor. Because the bill is, in fact, popular. And people do actually like it. And even at the Chamber of Commerce, if you actually explain it, they will like it. But you got to have the guts to get up and to explain it. And so you then can help give them a little bit of that power that they might be lacking. I'm telling you, we didn't get up to the numbers we have now just because we hoped for it. There was a whole lot of calling and a whole lot of knocking and a whole lot of confrontations at public meetings that got us to where we are now. And if we're going to go further, that's what it's going to take. Everybody running for Congress needs to get that question. Are you on or are you not? That's what we got to do. And I'm telling you, many cannot wait to get on. I'm just so enthralled by the people running for Congress who want to jump on the Medicare for All bill. We don't have to drag them kicking and screaming. It is within our ability to do this. So I just want to say this to you guys. It makes perfect sense in the richest country in the history of the world, at its richest point in its own history. Let me say that again. America has never been richer today than it is right at this very moment right now. Now, I know that you listen to these Republicans out there that tell you, we're broke, we can't afford it, we can't do it, we can't pay for schools, we can't pay for water systems, we can't pay for anything other than a big, fat $1.5 trillion tax bill. We can't afford it. And I'm going to tell you, when they gather all that money up, they don't just buy yachts and boats and mansions. They buy political influence, which is why, even though Medicare for All is the right policy, we can't get it through that institution. But we will get it through if we keep the pressure on, if we knock on every door, if we keep the meetings going on. You don't need to match up dollar for dollar with these billionaires, because all you need to do is to be in the fight. They need all that money to perpetuate all them lies. But you, with just armed with the simple truth, can break through and change this whole country around. So I want to invite a friend up, because I want you to know that this movement, we didn't just start this stuff just 5 minutes ago. Gene, where are you, Gene? Gene, give Gene a hand up here, y'all. To finish off my comments tonight, I want Gene to invoke the memory of a beloved brother of yours. His name was Paul Wellstone. And many years ago, he introduced the bill in the United States Senate for universal single-payer health care. And y'all know I've got this other thing that I'm working on these days. I was up in Evelyn, Minnesota, talking to the folks in Virginia and Hibbing and places like that, and I stopped in the memorial and just soaked in some of that love and some of that inspiration. And I thought about you, and I thought about your power, and I thought about your passion, and I thought about Paul, and I thought about Sheila. Gene, can you carry us out? Yes, sir. Come on up here, brother.
Thank you, Congressman. I'm just stealing a minute from you here. I'm from New York. I direct the Union Leadership Institute at Cornell University in New York City, and I'm the beneficiary of the tremendous, magnificent leadership of the healthcare fight for single payer in New York. Judy Sheridan Gonzalez, Katie Robbins, Ursula Rosen, Martha Livingston, and you might know that they're all women, they're all strong, they're all brilliant, and they can be very intimidating, trust me. But I wanted to pay tribute to them because they're tremendous leaders. So, last couple of days, getting ready to go to Minnesota, I started looking at this photograph I keep at home. And my wife kept saying to me, take that with you to Minnesota. Well, what do I do with it? Just take it with you, see what happens. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm walking out the door this morning, and she said, take the photograph of Paul and you to Minnesota. So I did. Now, 25 years ago, in March of 1993, I was the director of the New York Jobs with Justice healthcare campaign. We were fighting for single payer. For those that most of you will know this, perhaps not all of you, Paul Wellstone was the co-sponsor of the Senate bill for single payer, and we had a strong campaign in New York. This was before the Clinton plan was introduced, and we were trying to move single payer into that debate. We brought Paul to New York to a packed church on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and I mean packed. I'll never forget the day. And he gave a tremendous speech, and we gave him a bag filled with 12 stale bagels. Fortunately, he did not eat them, but we wrote on the bag, New York City bagels for single payer. And somebody said when we were getting the bag together, saying, I hope he doesn't eat these things. They're 3 days old. Well, here Paul finished his speech, and I got up, and I gave him the bag. It says here, New York City bagels for single payer. And he took the bag with him, because his wife Sheila was there, and I thought, oh my God, he's got to throw it in the trash can like when he goes into the men's room or something. He kept it. But this photograph, about a month later, arrived in my mailbox at work. I didn't expect it, and he signed it to me. I'll put it up here so you can all take a look at it. And of course, I became friends with Paul. And when I would go to Washington, I would stay with him and Sheila. They'd cook me spaghetti, and we'd have too many glasses of wine, and he'd tell me about how many people he loved or didn't like in Washington. But the real point here is, many of us know that politicians today, it's easy to be made cynical by their disregard for ethics and the selfish, narcissistic way that they operate in our system, which fuels that. Paul Wellstone, for those who don't know it, was the opposite of that. And it wasn't just introducing a bill, it was the way he lived and carried his life. And for me personally, it was an enormous honor. And then I've been following the career of this magnificent political leader, Mr. Ellison, and I thought he's going to be leading the fight for this bill from the House side, and he's from the state of Minnesota, where Paul served as senator. And I just thought it somehow made sense, made a connection to bring this and make that point. He knows he's standing on the shoulders of giants, a lot of giants. Paul was one of them. Those of you who are from Minnesota, you know what I'm talking about, even better than I do. But, this is a way to connect to history and connect to the understanding that movements and power are created over a long period of time. We have to sustain each other and remember those who helped us get here. And Paul was a magnificent human being and a magnificent political leader. And Congressman, it's an honor to meet you today, and thank you, everybody, for letting me say this.
All right, that's it. Go out there, let's fight, let's win. We're going to do it.